All right, so we've got some interesting stuff to dig into today. This Italian band, Winstoned, everyone's talking about the new single, You See Blue, right? And we're kind of getting this sneak peek into like what makes their sound, what makes them.
Yeah, it's always cool to, check out a band that's kind of on the come up, especially one that's doing something a little different, musically, lyrically, in this case, kind of both, right?
Definitely, yeah. You See Blue, that title alone kind of hints at something like deeper going on. So we've got a bunch of stuff to work with here, official bios, their website, all this, and the big question is, can they keep that unique sound as they make it bigger, break out?
Right, that's the challenge for any artist, I think. You find your sound, but can you, hold on to it when things start, moving and shaking?
Totally. And these guys definitely have that whole started from the bottom thing going on. Their studio, literally 3 floors underground.
Yeah.
In Bari, Italy, which not exactly known for, being a music mecca, is it?
No, not really. Speaks to their dedication, though, wouldn't you say? Turning a basement into, a creative space, that takes work, but it also, makes you wonder, how does that environment, those beginnings, how does that shape their sound?
Right. And speaking of their sound, they call themselves, get this, rock flâneur. I'll be honest, had to Google that one.
Not your everyday genre, that's for sure.
Not at all.
So a flâneur is imagine a wanderer, someone just soaking up, inspiration from everywhere they go, everything they see. And it seems like Winstoned, they're kind of doing that with their music. Props a foundation, sure. But then they're pulling in blues, funk, even some R&B.
Which makes sense when you see who's in the band. Ovvio Carriere, he's on guitar. And they describe his playing as scratching. What does that even sound like? I got to hear this.
Right. It's not a word you see every day, is it? Scratching makes you think of something raw, textured, And then you've got Nico Ladisa on vocals. They call his voice almost unique, which is quite a statement, if you ask me.
It definitely gets your attention. Oh, and don't forget the rhythm section, right?
Yeah.
They come from a metal background, so you've got all these different influences.
A real melting pot.
Exactly. And I'm guessing that's what gives them that rock flâneur sound. It's all those individual pieces coming together.
It'll be interesting to see how it all blends together on the new single.
Well, speaking of which, let's talk about You See Blue. This feels like a good case study, for really understanding what they're all about.
For sure. Even the title itself, it's playing with your expectations.
Oh, so?
Well, blue, right? Typically it's what? Sadness, melancholy. But the way they talk about You See Blue, it's different.
Yeah.
It's more about breaking free, liberation.
Interesting.
Not your typical blue song, that's for sure.
And that actually ties into their whole story, doesn't it? Coming from that basement studio, aiming for something bigger. It's like their own journey playing out through the music.
Exactly. They're not just, making music in a vacuum. They're living it. And that comes through, I think.
Totally. So we've got the blue theme, the mix of genres. But what about the music itself? What's it actually sound like?
Okay, so this is where things get really cool. They brought in some jazz musicians from the Bari Conservatory.
And hold on. Jazz musicians on a rock song?
Yeah. Adds this whole other layer to it.
Okay, now I got to know more. What does that even sound like? Jazz horns on a rock track.
Right. It's not what you'd expect, but it works. Think about the instruments, right? Saxophones, trumpets, they just bring this richness, this warmth that you don't always get in straight-ahead rock.
Wow. Okay, I'm intrigued. So they're really not afraid to experiment.
Not at all. And here's the thing. They produced this entire track themselves.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah. Recording, mixing, mastering, the whole 9 yards.
That's impressive. Especially for a band, just starting to make a name for themselves.
Exactly. Shows a real commitment to their vision, They're not letting anyone else touch it.
So it's pure Winstoned.
100%.
I like it. But you see, Blue isn't their only song, right? There's also Song for El Bloom, which, first of all, literary reference, love it. So tell me more about this one.
Okay, so Leopold Bloom, he's the main character in Ulysses, James Joyce's novel. And the song, it kind of taps into those same themes of, internal struggle, searching for meaning.
Wow, so you've got these driving rock anthems and then these introspective, almost literary tracks.
They cover a lot of ground, that's for sure.
They're not afraid to show different sides of themselves.
Exactly. And you really hear that range in the contrast between Song for El Bloom and, say, their earlier single, Long Lake Driver.
Oh, yeah, Long Lake Driver. That one's got a totally different energy.
Right. It's darker, grittier, almost sinister in a way.
It's like they're two different bands sometimes. But I guess that's what makes this whole rock flâneur thing so fitting.
Right. They're wandering through all these different sounds, different emotions, different vibes.
And that exploration, it goes beyond just like genres, right? The sources mentioned a Lou Reed comparison with Songs for El Bloom, which honestly I can totally hear.
Right. Especially with the darker themes, that kind of spoken word, almost conversational vocal style.
Exactly. It shows a real, like, depth of knowledge. They're not just pulling from the usual suspects, you know?
It's refreshing, isn't it?
Totally. So we've got this band with this unique sound, this DIY work ethic, and they're not afraid to, like, experiment, push boundaries. But what does all of this mean for them as they, get bigger? Can they hold on to that independence?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The music industry, it's a beast. And it can be really tough for artists to, stay true to themselves when there's all this pressure to, fit in, follow the formula.
Especially for a band like Winstoned, whose whole thing is about breaking the mold.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Their DIY background, it might actually work in their favor.
How so?
Well, they've already proven they can create and produce,
I.e.?
high-quality music on their own terms, right? They don't need a label. They don't need a big-shot producer. They've got the talent. They've got the drive.
So in a way, their independence is their superpower.
Exactly. It gives them the freedom to take risks, to experiment, without someone looking over their shoulder saying, that's not going to sell.
So it's like they've already cleared one of the biggest hurdles.
In a way.
You've established their sound, their process.
And that's huge.
And it makes their music, especially a song like You See Blue, even more powerful.
How so?
Because it's not just a catchy tune, right? It's coming from a real place.
Right. That message of resilience, it's not just words, it's their story.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, we built this ourselves.
Yeah.
Brick by sonic brick.
From the ground up.
Literally. And now they're inviting everyone into this world they've created.
And based on all the buzz, it seems like people are ready.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be onto something.
It's hard not to get swept up in it, Their energy, their passion, it's infectious.
So for our listeners who are just tuning in, just discovering Winstoned, what's the one thing you want them to take away from all of this?
Honestly, don't underestimate the power of authenticity. Winstoned, they're not trying to fit in. They're not trying to be like anyone else. They're carving out their own space. And that's what makes them so interesting.
They're not chasing a sound. They're building a world.
Exactly. And for listeners who are, maybe a little tired of the same old thing, Winstoned is a breath of fresh air. Proof that innovation, originality, it can still thrive, even in, the depths of a basement studio.
So for those who want to check them out, where should they start?
Their Spotify link is in the show notes, but honestly, start with You See Blue. It's like a perfect distillation of their sound, their ethos, their journey. Listen to the horns, the rawness of the guitar, the unique tone of Nico's voice. It's all there.
It's like a sonic treasure hunt, just waiting to be discovered.
And who knows, maybe in a few years we'll be saying, we knew them back when they were playing 3 floors underground in Bari.
Back when their biggest gig was the local football stadium.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, it's been great, peeling back the layers of Winstoned with you. They're a band with a story to tell, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning.
Couldn't agree more. It'll be fascinating to see where they go from here. Will they hold on to that raw, independent spirit? Will they collaborate with other artists? Will they finally emerge from that basement and, take on the world?
Those are questions for another deep dive, my friend. But for now, let's enjoy the ride and see where Winstoned takes us. Keep those ears open and those playlists updated. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Till next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.